I think few people can comprehend that what has been given as information in many of Chiron Last's videos and messages was actually a factual, objective, literal description of what's going on with us. So what was described and stated in Chiron Last's messages was far from being metaphorical, symbolical, or poetic. Although I know from experience that when our mind was looking at those videos, it was like some portions of that material that Chiron has put out. When we were listening to it, our mind was interpreting it as a metaphor. For example, when Chiron, look at this. I need to show you something. It was a little lizard here, but it just ran away. Anyway, so when Chiron, for example, spoke about in a video which is called Your Second Sight, and it described, I remember there is this passage where it says, like, hear it well, you have been blinded, a total blackout. Like when this is stated that it is a total blackout, this is far from being a metaphor or being poetic. It is a literal and actual truth. Like we think we know, or we think we have the impression that we don't know everything that it is going on with us here, but we still have the impression that there are some things which we kind of know them. But when one, let's say, truly encounters the real, then one understands, like, oh my God, it was all a charade. Like every notion that I ever had, everything that I ever believed or thought or imagined was a charade. It's like exactly like a total blackout. It was like a total blackout. Like, can you freaking imagine that the truth, although it's so familiar and natural and to us, it's almost like 180 degrees different than anything we ever thought, believed, felt, or imagined. So when Chiron, for example, spoke in that video, like we were, like one has been away from home for so long that one has even forgot that there is a home. That's a literal, actual depiction of our condition. That's far from being a poetic thing or a metaphor of sorts. It's just freaking word by word objective, literal truth. It's a description of reality. It's far from being a metaphorical, beautiful, poetic thing. It's actually a description. It's a map describing the territory. So right now, I believe that the brilliance of what was given in the material that Chiron has put out is that, unlike any other materials that I've personally encountered in this reality, what Chiron has achieved is to create a map describing reality in a faithful way. He actually managed to describe in a more faithful way our reality. He gave us a map. There were, of course, there are myriad of other maps which have been given, and some of them are accurate and some of them are more inaccurate. But how I personally found it, after I'm bumping into the experience, into the territory, let's say, and I'm seeing what the territory is about, I can now correlate, like, oh my god, it was like, but Chiron said this in that video, but that was stated in that other material. Like, it was there, but we couldn't comprehend until we had the experience. You know, one has to have the experience of the territory to understand that the map was actually accurate. And then to understand that, oh my god, it's like so many other maps were so false. You know, they were completely delusional maps. False, deliberate, false maps. Some of them, some other maps, for sure, they contain truth in them. But from what I found so far, at least from my experience, it's like I found Chiron Last's material to be the most accurate material in describing reality the way reality truly is. It's like I found brilliant other materials, but for me specifically, the way I see it currently, Chiron is like the most accurate material you'll ever find. But paradoxically, to our mind here, if you only look at the Chiron Last material with your mind, you'll find it the most, you know, unconclusive and most, let's say, poetic or metaphorical, or, oh yeah, that sounds nice, you know, but it will sound like gibberish to your mind. But it's just, as I said, it's just the paradox of it, because it sounds like gibberish to the mind, but in actuality, it's describing the truth in its to the letter. It's just factual truths. It's just literacy. Literally describing how things are. But other things from this reality, where you see all these explanations, you know, they seem to make perfect sense for what this reality is, you know. It makes sense for your mind. Yeah, you go and you study who knows what type of, you know, philosophical idea or concepts or beliefs. They start to make sense for your mind. But ask yourself, it's like, at the end of reading those books and going into, let's say, even Gnosticism, even all these traditions from this place, have you felt more, have you bumped into the reality of things? Have you started having experiences? That's the thing. If a material that you are reading is not starting to provide you with experience, then it's like it's a blank, you know, it's like it's a blank, empty bullet. It does nothing. It just does nothing. It just talks and talks and talks, you know, but if it doesn't provide you with an experience, if you're not having an experience, if something within you doesn't change irremediably, let's say, after you encounter a certain material or after you're exposed to a certain material, then you're the same. You're just having more intellectual, let's say, understandings, and you think you know what reality is, but your reality is the same. You wake up in the morning, you go, you eat, you shit, you wash your toothbrush, you wash your teeth, you know. Wow. Oh wow, there was this bird, this large bird that just flew over. Anyway, so our life is the same, but we just think we have more understandings of what this reality is. So unless we start having a true experience of the real, there is just empty talk, and there is just empty, let's say, ideologies, and we can remain here in this reality creating, videos and books and writings for eternity, just speaking about what this reality is and sharing knowledge and whatever. And it's where it's at the experience. We have to get to the experience of the real. We have to experience for ourselves what reality is. And then, once we start experiencing reality, there's nothing to talk about anymore. There's nothing to talk about. It's like we understand each other from just being in silence with each other, because we just know. We are here in reality together. What is it to talk about? I see the same objective truth, because, by the way, there is only one single truth, one single reality. There are not many facets, there are not subjective truths, there is zero such thing. There is only one single truth, one single objective reality. So if both, or let's say more of us, we are here in reality experiencing the same reality together, we just know. There is nothing in a way to even talk about, because our experience is our communication. We communicate. There is anyway, it's a completely different magnitude of experience in reality, where everything becomes one. All the senses become one. Everything is unified back into one. All the senses, like hearing, sight, touch and taste and smell, and so many other senses that there are not only 5, by the way. Usually there are many senses which we have been blinded to, of course, but all these many senses come into one, and in reality you have access to all of them simultaneously. So when you stay next to another being which finds itself in reality with you, there is a completely different communication going on. You don't have to use necessarily words, and hear, and it's all everything at once. It's there in reality, and it's unspeakable. The magnitude of the experience is just the majesty of it, the magic, it's just it has to be experienced. Again, it has to only be a direct experience. So to conclude on this recording, I believe right now that the way I see it, Chiron Last is for spirituality what Nikola Tesla is for science. This is how I see it. So, for anybody, if you truly want the truth, and not only you want to know the truth, but you want to experience the truth, you want to have a chance at a chance, as it was said in Chiron Last material. Like, if you truly are serious about having a chance at a chance to experience the real you. That's the thing, because it's not it's you which you are missing. It's you which you are searching for, in a way, let's say. But that you, it's not the you that you think of, and it's not the you that can be described gracefully. But in a way, it's you want something which is already yours. You are searching for something which is already pertaining to you. But God, it's so ironical. It's like you can do this in 2 ways. You first way, the most simple and most effective way, is just shut up. Shut off the doors, shut off the windows, shut off YouTube, shut off the phone, shut off every book, anything. Sit with yourself and find that which is already there as your truth. You need 0 teachers, you need 0 guides. Just accept the truth which you already know. It's true. You already know the truth. Just accept the truth. Make courage to accept what's already real, and you already know it. And just what What keeps you away from that realization is your own fear of it. Just make the courage to accept the truth which you already know. Just accept the truth. And that's it. That's the first and most direct path, which is the pathless path, which Chiron again spoke about, is the pathless path, because you are literally one, even less than a breath away, than actualizing your entire truth. And this is why the true spirituality is not a path, because it's always here. You're just one less than a breath away, less than a second away, less than a moment away, less than anything away from just accepting what you are. That's the pathless path of the heart, which was described in Chiron's message. That's the most direct thing. Just close everything off and that's it. You're there. Accept what you already know. Accept what you already are. You're there. That's the most direct way. But there is also, if you want to take it, let's say, like a journey, and you're not having the enough courage to do this directly, instantly. By the way, I didn't have the courage. I bumped into this unknowingly, searching for myself. I was searching for myself at around the age of 25. I was in these years where I obsessively wanted to know myself. And at a certain moment, I remember I was in my room at my parents' house in the capital city, and I felt so determined. I felt so, no, I need to know. I was like, oh. And in that moment, man, I surge up all my will. And in that moment, it's like, oh my God, I can't even to this day describe what happened. It's like, I had the first glimpse in my life of my true self. And the entire reality felt like if I would have stayed in that state, I stayed just even less than a fraction of a second. It was instant. But then I felt like if I stay another instant in that state, everything is gonna decompose. I felt like I would disintegrate entirely, and everything would disintegrate entirely, and it felt like waking up from a dream. But I didn't have the courage to stay another instance in that state. I didn't have the courage, and that state that I entered into was so real, so real that I couldn't bear it. It was too real. It was too true, And it scared me so much that 7 years I stopped any endeavor. Like for 7 years I stopped any endeavor of trying to find myself. I've stopped any endeavor of meditation, anything. It's like I've just went back to be a normal human being, let's say, with all my, of course, sensitivities, and because as my character was never, let's say, the normal one. It was always unusual. It was always like poetic or artistic or whatever. But I went back to that, and I didn't search the true, genuine version of myself. This is why I'm saying that the true truth is just here. We can access it anytime, but it's fear itself. We are just afraid to take it all in instantly, and this is why we devise these notions of, there is a spiritual path, and we are just buying time for us to accept what's already here. It's like there is never gonna be a spiritual path. We are just buying time, all of us, because the evidence is already here and has never changed, and it has never left us, and we never left. What we are never changed. We never changed. There is no evolution. There is no such thing. We just invented all of this stuff. There's nothing that you can ever do to achieve what you are. Nothing that you'll ever do in this cosmic realm. You can stay here for eternity playing the games of evolution. You might think you are evolving now to 5D, 6D, 7D. You might think you're becoming enlightened. You might think you're, yeah, growing and evolving, you know, and building higher knowledge and acquiring gnosis, and you're here as a soul to learn about life, and you're learning about yourself. And I can tell you, it's you already are completion. You already are what you are, and what you are can never change. Reality is the absolute. Do you think the absolute can ever, you know, be anything less or more than itself? It's like, if think about it logically, like if you have an absolute reality, well, that absolute contains in it everything that could ever be, was, and possibly could ever be. So how could you become more than what you are? How can the absolute, let's say, become something else than the absolute itself? Because if the absolute, even the concept of the absolute being able to evolve or grow, it's just how? How would you, how would an absolute reality be able to grow? That means it was not absolute. It was something less, and now it's something more. So the real is the absolute version of yourself, which has never changed. You are the totality of what you are forever, eternally, as yourself. You never changed. But we are just playing games here in this reality. Just games. All day long. All this non-time, basically. Because we are in a no-time, suspended in a no-time, an illusion which goes on forever because it's suspended in this single moment of this never moment, you know. It's a never moment in which we are suspended in, and all these dreams, they happen in this never moment because they never happen. It's a never moment. But anyway, to get back, so you can take the pathless path, the direct path, instant path to yourself, fall into yourself, basically, plunge into yourself fully, all in. Or you can try to buy some time and go and study teachers and go and study materials and go and that can at best, let's say, help you build up the courage to ultimately achieve the same thing, to build up the courage to accept what's already true. So if you take the second path, the path of, let's say, the quest, the journey towards yourself, then on this path, how I see it is like there, on this path there can be true teachers and false teachers, true guides and false guides. Now, the difference between a false guide and a true guide is like the false guide will always lead you somewhere. The false guide will always tell you, like, there is something you have to acquire, something you have to be, something you have to do, you have to develop, you have to evolve, you have to do that and that and that. That's the false teaching. The true teacher, in my opinion, is gonna kill all your desires, expectations, and hopes. The true teacher is gonna kill you in a way. It's just gonna stop your world. That's what the true teacher does. It's because the true teacher is the one which experiences reality. And if you say you want reality, right? You say you want reality, then the true teacher is gonna stop your world. It's gonna stop all your hopes, all your imaginations, dreams, hopes of evolution, of growth. It's just gonna kill you, basically. So the true teacher is your killer. The false you, of course, has to die. And the true teacher is your killer. And the true teacher has nothing to give to your, let's say, self which wants to play games. Has nothing to give to that one. And this is why the true teacher is gonna appear to you like a monster. The true teacher, it's gonna, if it is embodying, as much as a true teacher embodies truth, you will see it as a devil or a monster. You will become afraid of it at first. This is why so many people have, let's say, seen Chiron Last message as, depressing, or, oh, he's so downer, man, he's just focusing on the negative, he's just, or it might have not even, just not comprehending anything from that material, because I've seen comments in which it was said that, oh, all word soup from that guy. I remember a comment, somebody saying, oh, it's just word soup. Yeah, he's just mixing words, and because that's the conundrum of the mind. It's like when you encounter truth, it's in this world of falsity, it's so unrecognizable that you either think it's the devil or you think there is this, paradoxical thing which makes no sense. It's just because for the mind it makes no sense. And by the way, I think this is what there is another being which I found that it has a more genuine experience of reality, which is Roy Dobson. And I believe Roy Dobson has struggled with this thing as well, because, man, I believe he might have a level of experiencing the truth, but then he made the courage to only stick to that, to only stick to the truth. And people barely understood what he's trying to say there, because that just didn't make sense for anything of the mind. And Roy Dobson actually adopted this attitude, like, no, I'm not gonna fool around with you, I'm not gonna fool around. I'm just gonna stop your word. And I'm not gonna entertain your mind with concepts or ideas, or I'm just gonna stop your word. Because if you say you want the truth, if you say you want the truth, then truth can only be discovered by stopping your word. So to conclude on this recording, from my experience so far, what Chiron has managed to do in his material was that it brilliantly was able to mix both the teaching and the non-teaching, in a way, both giving something to the mind but always also taking something from the mind. So I don't know, it's miraculous in a way how he was able to portray the truth and still give something to the mind, still give these theories, but portray them in such a way in which it gave nothing to the mind at the same time. So it's like, I believe that the message of Chiron was really, really almost like, yeah, it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece in how it works. Because for the ones that are ready, it is opening their hearts. For the ones that are ready, it is creating a breach. It is creating a breach in this entire mental wall that protects us from the truth. It just breaks the wall in a way. But for the ones which are, let's say, not ready to give up this wall, it just seems like nothing. It's just gibberish, It's just it's word soup, Oh, he's depressed, he went a bit wacko. Yeah, he was intelligent, but then he got a bit schizophrenic, No, that's when it got really true. Like when Chiron seemed to, in that second phase where with the dark videos became, let's say, schizophrenic, that's when it actually started being more raw and more true and just cutting off the shit, with all those. It's just. I'm far from saying, by the way, I agree with everything that Chiron said. I have my own things which I disagree with some things I disagree with. But nonetheless, I can still see that uh, the brilliance in this material, it's like it acts exactly like an arrow, you know, like an archer, you know, aiming for your heart and just pointing it directly where it has to be. The arrow is like pointing to the heart and just you know, piercing through your heart. So if you allow it, that material is going to break your heart, because that's the point. The point is to break your heart. And until you allow your heart to be broken, you will continue paradoxically to be imprisoned in all this apparent cage, safe cage created by all these stories and all these illusions, where your heart is imprisoned. So your heart is imprisoned in this net of safety, apparent safety created by all these illusions for your mind, all these stories of who you are and what you think you want, and until your heart is fully broken, you cannot, let's say, comprehend at the experience level that all this entire world is a fabrication and an illusion. You have to have your heart broken, you know, in a way or another, just for you to accept what's already yours, what the truth actually is. So what Chiron does is like it's like this archer, this archetype of the Chiron archetype, which has this arching ability, which is this masterful archer which aims for your heart, and it directly hits you in the heart. That's what Chiron's message is about. It's about aiming your heart and hitting it and breaking it in a way. And if you are ready, you will allow it. You will allow your heart to be broken. You will jump fully into the fire, let's say. You will just give yourself off completely, and you will allow it. And if you allow it, at least I can tell you from my experience, that something is going to be changed, truly changed within you, and you'll have a breach made within this wall, which is going to allow the real to penetrate you a bit, you know, similar to how you would have just a small thin wave or wave of air entering into a room which was up until that point completely sealed. This is, I believe, what Chiron's message is achieving. It's just creating this breach into our wall, hitting us directly into the heart, and thus breaching this thick wall that surrounds our hearts, and thus the real, which exists always here, but let's say metaphorically on the other side of this wall, is starting to be able to infiltrate and touch us, and we remember the real, and thus we can search for the real, and then we start our pathless path towards accepting that real, inviting that real, being curious about that real, being less afraid about it. So you can take the direct path in which you can do this entirely yourself, and you don't need Chiron, you don't need anybody. You just need yourself and courage and love and determination to just be in the real, what you are, and you can do it instantly right now. Or if you want to take the path, let's say a sort of like journey into this truth, and you want to take it as a journey, I can, from my experience so far, what I can recommend is Chiron Last material. Like, yeah, there are other people, other teachers, other guides, but the most direct one, which is able to pierce your heart and create that opening, if you allow it, of course, from my experience, is Chiron Last, which, from everything that I found, exactly as I said, it feels like the pinnacle of what you can encounter as teachers in this reality. It cuts deep into what has to be cut, and it pierces exactly the spot that has to be pierced within you, if you allow it, of course. And when I say allow, it means study the material with complete dedication, be there in silence with it, allow it fully your presence, and yeah, you can try to find reality by using other teachers or other writings. For sure you can try, but I'm giving you my experience so far. I'm giving you, that's the most, like the most accurate and direct path towards the real that I found is in Chiron Last's message and in Chiron Last's material. But again, it has to be met in the correct way. You have to meet it with dedication, you have to meet it with seriousness, you have to put yourself fully there. So in any case, I feel that our collective path towards the real has started, and I feel we are here together to experience the unimaginable, unspeakable, true reality, which is our home, which is our birthright in a way, and the nature of what we truly are. We are here to experience this together, and I feel it began. And I feel it's gonna unfold more and more for all of us, collectively, from now on. So we are here to meet each other, to meet one another in this true, magical, miraculous existence. We are here to take our first breath together. Being birthed together.